So I want to go ahead and introduce Kevin here. Just going to read off his bio real quick. Kevin Lockwood is certified as a visionary leadership and conscientious coach, licensed spiritual practitioner, and Six Sigma black belt, so don't mess with him, and a program and risk management trainer, which I'm intrigued to know a little bit more about that, if you don't mind, Kevin. He offers 30 years of experience creating transformation from the inside out for individuals, Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and nonprofit organizations in almost 50 countries. Kevin loves coaching and consulting because the best and the most empowering solutions not only involve people facing challenges, but indeed come from deep within them. So let me introduce you to Kevin Lockwood. He's got a really great session for us on the Cornerstone of Compassion. Really excited about this.
Thanks,
Kevin.
buddy.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. It's my win today is that I get to hang out with you guys.
Oh, fantastic.
And I get to hear something I'm really passionate about. And risk management, geez, that's my corporate days, man. We used to build satellites and all kinds of secret government stuff. And so, yeah, there's lots of risk involved. So that's the risk management trainer in me. He's been packed away for about 15 years, but he's around.
All right.
All right. Let's see if I can get this slideshow working. You guys can see it okay? I
can, yes.
Perfect. Hey, who's familiar? Give me a hand, show of hand if you're familiar with this guy.
Me. Start with why.
Yeah. If you haven't heard of Simon Sinek, he is a great speaker, entertainer, and gets right to the point of, what we really care about is the why. And so before I get to the how and what of compassion, I want to go through the why we need compassion at all. Where's the need come from? So in my personal why, what drives me is service and helping others. And so in the beginning of my life, I was in the military, served my country, and then I became a military contractor for another dozen years. And at a point, I grew to the point I wanted to serve more. I wanted to serve humanity. So I left my job in Denver. I went to Thailand for a while, worked with kids and elephants, went to India, stayed in an ashram, worked with kids there, back to Thailand, taught English, back through Denver, and then landed in Uganda, which I fell in love with. It felt like home as soon as I got there. And the first guy I met was a Dr. Moses Musavi. He was the head of engineering at Makerere University. Brilliant man. I wish I could share the million things that we did together and the other 8 million other things that he did to change the world. But the first thing he taught me about was this biosand filter. It was developed in Calgary, and he's like, he's telling me how it works. And well, oops, I should back up here. He says the problem with this biosand filter, Kevin, is that it filters water great. It doesn't need any maintenance. He says, but it's a free resource. And I said, Moses, what is a free resource? He says, in Uganda and Africa, it's about survival. If somebody's not using something, you can lift it up and carry it home, you would do it, right? And if there's a bucket, a couple of buckets sitting at the local watering hole, right? And one of them's got a spigot on it, how handy is that? Wouldn't you just dump the sand out and take it home with you? So I said, oh, okay. So what Moses did was he put this biosand filter into a concrete structure. And once you deliver it on site and fill it full of gravel and sand, you can't move it, right? It's brilliant. And believe it or not, it costs about $100, complete delivery to the bush. So it's about as expensive as the filter in your refrigerator. And if you look up biosand filter now, like back then, it was all the buckets. But now if you look up a biosand filter on Google, you'll see the concrete structure. And I said to Moses, I said, holy cow, have you taken this to the WASH cluster? Now the WASH cluster is a UN organization, water, water, sanitation, and hygiene, right? And he says, well, I tried to get in there, but they didn't want to see me, right? So I call it the WASH cluster, right? Now I know nothing about water, sanitation, and health. Hey, Fadi, can I swear here? All right, I know shit. I know shit about shit. right? So I call them up, and of course the woman hears a white American male on the phone. I hear, and a Ugandan woman on the phone. She can tell by my accent. And I start telling her about this biosand filter. She says, oh, you got to come in and show us, right? So I go in with Moses the following week, right? We bring all his charts and water samples. He's been all over Uganda, everywhere the water is polluted, right? And he really puts on a great presentation of how this thing works and why it works. And in the end, who do they look to ask a question?
You?
Me, the white guy in the room. I don't know anything. I'm just turning to Moses, And in the end, they decided that it wasn't a great move, that they didn't want to use these biosand filters. Instead, they're using these straws that have a filter in them, right? That's back a dozen years ago. And what a mess those, because then you got pollution from the straws, right? Anyway, so just to emphasize the point, a year later, I'm in Uganda and Obama's running for president. And I pick up the newspaper one morning and there's an article in there by a Ugandan man. It's got a picture and everything. And it says, we better hope that Barack Obama doesn't get elected president of the United States because it'll show the world once and for all that a black man can't do it, right? It's one of those things I love about Uganda. Whatever their opinions are, they just air them out. There's no political correctness, right? So where does this idea come from? Why were they asking me questions and not Moses, right? So I don't know if you know who this guy was. Idi Amin. He's probably one of the most horrifying rulers in the history of the world in terms of what happened under his rule after British colonization. So Ugandans look back and say, okay, when were there peace in the country? Well, that's when we were British colony, right? So that was good. We were under a white guy. So by a thing called implicit bias and collected with false beliefs, Barack Obama must be a bad leader as well. So how else does this work? So this is a little picture of me and my sister when I was a child. And I was in a workshop, oh shoot, probably 8 years ago. And a friend of mine said, hey, how's it going with your girlfriend? And I said, well, we're on a break. She goes, well, what's that mean? Well, once in a while she needs some time apart. And it's been, well, first it was a week, now it's 2 weeks, it's been 3 weeks. I imagine it'll be just one more week because usually it only lasts a month. She's like, a month? How many times has this happened? I'm like, well, it's the third time this year. And she said, why are you with this girl? And I started describing all her amazing characteristics, right? And she stops me and she says, no, Kevin, why are you with this woman? And I closed my eyes because I realized she was asking a deeper question. And I immediately went back to a memory. And all of a sudden, my nose is up against my sister's door, and I'm 3 years old, and she doesn't want to come out and play with me, right? She won't let me in her bedroom and play with me. So here I am at 3, developing how my relationships are going to be when I'm in my 30s, right? Which is women that don't have time to spend with me. So Harville Hendricks would say the ego wants to win those relationships that we lost as children. I would say that your infinite self, your spirit, wants to gain freedom from the limiting thoughts and beliefs that you picked up as a child. So you draw these opportunities into your life, right? For me, it's pain, right? And I could feel the pain, of being a 3-year-old, and it was the same pain as I was feeling that I hadn't seen my girlfriend in 3 weeks because she didn't have time for me. So you're probably wondering, what's all this have to do with our clients and customers and the people we work with, right? So our job is to fulfill their desires, right? So let's just say, first thing we want is car. We need help to buy a car. In order to do that, we're going to need a job, right? Once we get a job, we're like, wow, I can afford a home. If I'm going to get a home, well, I'm going to need a loan. Well, now I need some financial advice because I got a loan, I got a job, I got all these things going on. And then I need to maintain all these things that I've bought. I need some organization in my life. My health is deteriorating. I need some help around that. Thank you, Leanne. I need some companionship. Somebody can help me with that. Before I can get into companionship, I got a real problem with my own personal growth. And I really just want some peace of mind. I'll probably need to get some insurance. And after all that, we'll need a vacation, right? So I threw the answer up there already, but what do these all have in common? All these decisions require an emotional process. In fact, if we're going to help our clients with these decisions and to make these things come true for them in their lives, then that's an emotional process as well for them to choose us to help us. So what's helpful to know is who are the Idi Amins and big sisters in our clients' lives or in our lives. For example, the Wash cluster had a tough time making a good decision on that water filter, which affected the health of the people in Uganda. I had a difficult time with reliving my sister's relationship, right? So I had a tough time with companionship. There's other good stories. When I was 3 and my big sister was 7, she was the authority of life. And when I asked her to read me a book, and she said, "But your books are stupid," right? I'm like, I didn't read another book all the way through college, right? I squeaked through because subconsciously my books were stupid, right? So it was affecting my own personal growth and development. So I want to pause right there and just, does anyone have a story they could share? Maybe it's work that you've done already that you're aware of a limiting belief or implicit bias or trigger, or maybe it's something you're just beginning to uncover and you have an awareness of.
I do.
Yeah, Betty, go ahead, baby. Thanks.
Actually, a project recently with Joshua, I've been working to figure out providing information for a web developer that's very data driven. I was only able to speak to him in my language and my capability. But as I've seen Joshua as an expert in the industry and how he was able to communicate with him, he was able to find some of his frustrations, and I started to have compassion for him. But prior to that, I was just pissed off at the motherfucker. If you worried about bad language, there you have it.
Yeah.
So, because clearly in the beginning he didn't have the vision that he needed in order to do his job, and then he needed very specific technical direction. I was not qualified to do that, so I went from being angry to like, man, I really feel bad for the guy. So awareness, increasing the level of awareness from different perspectives is something that I pursue on a daily basis. And the quicker I acknowledge it, the quicker I can learn from it, and hopefully it leaves somebody else inspired.
Thanks.
As I share.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Patty. I can't see the chat box, so if there's anybody that pokes something up in the chat box, just come off mute and share if you want to share.
Yeah, so one I've seen recently is hesitancy in people to develop new relationships.
Yeah.
For the fear of like the depth or the places that will take them. So they're like, don't know how to interact, right? But they won't say like, hey, I'm worried that this might lead to us getting a beer next week, and what that would lead to, and what that would lead to.
Very interesting.
Thanks, Dick. Anyone else got a good story to share?
Let's see.
Thanks, Dwayne. Yeah, go ahead. Or
go
Leanne.
ahead.
Go ahead. I'll try to. I'll stop directing traffic. Go ahead, Dwayne.
No, I was just saying, I got parents, growing up, they're, immigrants from Jamaica and old school, and they're just, get 3 jobs, and, go to school and get a job. And I was like, oh, that's the constant stuff, and complaining about bills. And me, I kind of broke out with, a car university where I just kind of constantly just listening to different stuff and got a different mindset and hanging around different people. And it completely shift my focus with the negativity of not being able to make it without government jobs and stuff like that, and being an entrepreneur. So that's always been a struggle.
Thanks. That's a really good example, Dwayne, because your parents had every good intention of setting you on the best track, using the best tools that they knew, right? And that established a limiting belief you had to break through. And there was no harm intended. They just wished the best for you. Go ahead, Leanne. Thanks, Dwayne.
Got a few things floating around, and I don't know that I'll share a specific, but so, and bear with me because this is a really, I am so glad you're here, Kevin, is all I can say. So bear with me as I struggle. So when I have those moments where I'm completely pissed and just want to throat punch the fuck out of somebody, I feel like it is more important to understand why I'm feeling angry, right? Than it is to express it until I fully understand why. Okay. So for me, I recognize the trigger, right? And I can say, okay, this is really pissing me off and I don't understand. Why is this person behaving this way, or why are they doing this? Okay. I have no control over someone else's behavior. I only have control over my, not my reaction, but my response. Because a reaction comes from a trigger with no thought. Am I on your page? Okay.
Yeah. In other words, it comes
So,
from those deep-seated, things that
right.
have happened to us. Yeah.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with what's happening in the moment. And I'll go out there because I'm sitting in a room full of men, minus my girls, Jackie and Beth. Sorry, girls. I started out with a bunch of boys. And even as I share this, and if I go on, cut me off, you see I'm struggling with anxiety. I have an underlying fear of men, which comes from an experience that I had as a 2-year-old child from my grandfather, who just treated me horribly one moment in my life. But I can, even as I sit here, I can feel that anxiety in my body because that emotion is attached to an experience. And the primal part of our body says you need to protect yourself, right?
Exactly.
So anyway, so I guess I'm just trying to validate the why I feel the why is important, because we can get pissed and get triggered in that moment, which makes us reactive instead of responding, giving ourselves an opportunity to process that triggered response, let the anxiety, the adrenaline leave your body, and then process how you want to move forward. I also, when I get caught up in my head, I do it like a game of chess or jujitsu. I have some MMA background. And so, you do layered moves, and so it's like, okay, you just made that move. I'm being triggered by it. Let the adrenaline go. And then what is my next move going to be? Does any of that resonate? And bless you all for letting me babble.
No, that's beautiful. What you're describing is to me the main component of emotional intelligence, which is we're going to get triggered, right? There's stuff there we don't even remember, or we might remember from our childhood, but when it happens to us in the present, it triggers that response, right? And so part of emotional intelligence is to allow that emotion to completely come like a wave and pass, right? Rather than projecting it on somebody else, right? I'm angry, so I'm going to start yelling at Fatty until he gets angry, and then we can meet in that space, right? Or push it down and pretend it's not there, right? Or perpetuate it with a story about how I'm angry, but not fucking furious, right? Because being rageful is not acceptable, right? But I can be angry at that bitch or that bastard, right? But so emotional intelligence is that when that wave of emotion comes fully through and passes, it leaves you in a space of calm and clarity where you can actually act newly in the situation. And part of being able to do that, Leanne, I think is working with those traumatic moments as a child, right? And that's what I do as a coach, is basically 90% of what I do is that emotional intelligence work that gives us freedom to act newly through life, right? To work through the blocks we have. Leanne, do you want to say something else?
I did. I'm sorry, guys. I started in 2003. And so every day I just live to be who I want to be, kind of thing. But part of what I wanted to say was, I just lost it, but I think it has to do with just staying in the present moment, and just recognizing, forgive me, y'all, I lost my thought, but yeah.
No, Leanne, you always have something, and it actually reminds me of certain things. And so I always trail off of your discussion because it just seems like it makes sense. When I was younger, I had a very high testosterone and very quick anger, and I was in shape and all this other stuff. And I was just, that type of person, but I was used to that, all that energy, and I can control it. And now that I'm older, things are changing, but I'm a little softer now. And that's sometimes not a good thing, because you have to be aware of it. And as far as like relationships, for example, I had a relationship, and I could openly admit I was the idiot, and of course these things happened to me because I was dating the wrong individual, and everything was my fault. And I do get angry, but like you said, I allow that, and I kind of set back and I said, you know what? It's okay to admit that I made my mistakes. That's human, but it also allows me to just be careful, to be more aware of things to watch out. So yeah, that's kind of my anger. My other anger thing is like, sometimes I want to get stuff done quickly, and I forget that not everyone can work at my pace. Like, I'm a designer, I'm a developer, I'm an architect, and so the things that I do are very foreign. And so I had, even my recent experience with an outside developer was really frustrating. I couldn't understand why he couldn't understand. I'm very clear with my instructions. And I just realized he wasn't that great of a developer. Excuses for everything, And I learned that, okay, well, I have to vet the developers out better. That portion is my fault. And I have to vet those individuals out. And if they don't meet up to my standards, I always feel that if I'm working with someone, I don't expect them to be 100% me. It's impossible. I have 5 jobs, and I do them well. But they have to do that one job 60% as good as I am. If they don't meet that quota, you're kind of up against what you're dealing with, And so I have to always put that reality factor in there and say, okay, and it was amazing, because when I was dealing with the developers, frustrating, it's just like over and over to tell them. And it would drive you mad, because it was this reciprocal type thing that drove you crazy. And I ended up it took longer to explain, and in certain instances I did the work, and he wouldn't recognize that I just finished it up. And it's like, how can this take 2 weeks and this 4 hours? I don't get it, And so I said, Troy, you're in it now. So I got 2 choices. I'm gonna go ahead and finish it, or I gotta exit off, right? And it depends on which is the better, depending on timeline. And so I think that sometimes when we go through these motions, it's good to separate and understand and use it as a learning experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
It's, yeah, I love that, Troy, that it's like you recognize it's an opportunity to move through something in yourself. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we're not, we're all flawed, amazingly flawed, and it's just working and recognizing your flaws and just being realistic, It's just like, it's kind of funny. People I knew said, Troy, it's amazing. How did you do this? And how did you do that? I said, I get away with a lot of stuff that other guys can't do, but I also suffer a lot that those other guys don't suffer, And so some of it's a trade-off, and it's just understanding and being honest about who you are, I don't know. I'm done talking now, guys.
Oh, that's sweet. Thanks, Troy, for sharing. Appreciate it. Betty, did you have something you wanted? Was that a clap or a hand raise? I don't know the difference.
Oh, man, I was just kudos. Troy, kudos to Leanne. Great work, guys. I appreciate you.
Okay. I got 6 on my Hollywood squares. Is there anybody else? Because I might be missing. Oh, there we go. Okay. We got Beth, Jackie, and Joshua. You guys want to, anything you want to share? And we can't see your mouse moving there. Beth just unmuted herself. Okay.
Yeah, I unfortunately came in late, but I just wanted to say how impressed I am with what I've heard and what you've said so far. And
well, thanks, Beth.
There are things that I would comment on, except for my guys in the room. So I will keep quiet, because personal is personal and business is business. But I definitely have learned a lot, and I feel like have grown a lot in some of those areas that you've talked about. I think we both have. So great points. It's fantastic.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Ben. Anyone else? All
I
right.
agree with Nick. Business is personal, especially in today's age. I feel like it's all become one, and some of that negative reaction sometimes that 3-year-old self comes out, and in a 40-something-year-old conversation with a client that things might have gone sideways because expectations were not clear. So as Troy suggested, you just make sure that you do a better job. And at the end of the day, I feel like, it's up to us to be able to communicate and move things forward. I know Beth, she's in private aviation, and I've seen her handle calls from disgruntled customers that she's never met before, and she's able to turn that conversation, turn that really angry member to like a ecstatic, happy, super and let me drop another $100,000 with you guys. Thank you so much, Beth, for listening to me and listening to my bullshit. And for her to just kind of almost being the punching bag, and she had nothing to do with it directly, but she was able to kind of absorb all of that negativity and maybe internally not deflect it in a certain way because it's not her, it's not true, it's just what somebody else's head trash is, and but she's able to listen and be compassionate with that individual, just to feel their suffer but not take it personally because it's not about her. So I hope you don't mind me sharing that, Beth, because sometimes it's a lot easier when you see it externally than you experience it yourself, right? So I just thought about that just recently, and how it is personal. It goes both in personal and professional life. I think it has made me a better coach and trainer to be able to feel with some of my existing some clients repeatedly doing the same mistake over and over and over, and I try a way to help them to shift a little bit and nudge them this way, nudge them that way. And it's at some point the light bulb just kind of comes on, and I'm the happiest, most ecstatic trainer or coach you can ever meet, just by making the smallest little improvement, little progress. I'm like, yes, win, finally. So anyways, I don't know if you guys understood that context.
Well, that's a perfect lead in into compassion. So before we jump in there, just for me in the beginning, what I was so passionate about what I did in terms of helping others, but that in itself really doesn't grow your business and doesn't attract clients. To me, you got to put a compass on your passion, right? Which points towards what's your customers' challenges, right? And what are the things that you can really help them that they want to achieve, right? So before we jump into cash, I just want to, compassion is a really misunderstood word in our society. So I just want to look at some meanings of words. Now, St. Nicholas would have brought toys to the naughty children and not the nice ones, where Santa Claus does the exact opposite. Right? Used to be that LOL actually meant laughing out loud. Now it means I got your text, thank you. It was amusing. Right? And then if we look at the British meanings of words, bum is your fanny, fanny is a dirty word, and nobody would ever want to stay at Trump Towers. So let's look at compassion. All right. For a moment, we've just shared a lot of stuff. I just wanted to take a deep breath in. And let it go. If you missed it, that's all right. We'll do it again. Just want you welcome a big breath right into your heart. And as you let it go, just relax right into this present moment. The first step of compassion is as simple and easy as breathing. Emotions are just energy. They come and go like the breath. So the first step of compassion is to simply feel whatever challenging emotion is present, either for yourself or another person, right? And we actually have an organ that's naturally suited for this. The heart is capable of connecting with the emotions of another person. And that can be powerfully transforming, because when we allow challenging emotions to be fully felt, like I was talking about that wave, right, we begin to release the limiting thoughts and beliefs that are stored with them. And so why do I say, I'm going to pause here, because in case your BS flag went up and said, what do you mean the heart's capable of connecting with emotions? Where's the science behind that? There is actually science behind that. It comes from the Heart Math Institute, right? They loaded up a computer with all these pictures. Some of them were really hard to look at. People dying, war scenes, children starving. Other ones were sunsets, couples holding hands, children playing, right? And the screen would go blank for 15 seconds, right? And then flash a picture, and then it would go blank for 15 seconds and flash a new picture. Now, in that period of time, when it was blank, the heart was already anticipating what the next picture would look like. In other words, the heart signals, the energy coming from the heart, if it was going to be a challenging picture, was sending signals that it was going to be a challenging picture. If it was going to be a pleasant one, it was sending signals that it was going to be a pleasant picture. And the computer random number generator to pick the picture hadn't even gone off yet. The computer didn't know what it was going to pick, but the heart knew the picture that was coming. So to me, that is your evidence that the heart is your intuitive organ, right? And it's also capable of connecting with emotions of other people. They did another study with plants. If you want to get real basic. Yeah, Patty, you want to say something?
Plants and water. Go ahead.
So I had a question about that, but I want to continue. I don't want to
So they basically put electrodes on plants, right? And they measured the plant response when somebody was coming in to water them or trim them or harvest them. And there was a different vibration that the plants were putting off as soon as the person walked in the room. And then the plants don't know what's going to happen, nor do they care, right? The plant knows it's an infinite being, right? Just temporarily having a experience on the planet. And to me, the heart's the same way. It's non-judgmental, and in terms of its understanding what's coming up, what's coming, and it's just sending a signal to the brain. This is what's coming next. Yeah, Leanne, did you want to say something? Okay, perfect. All right, I got another exercise we want to do, and I hope we got time.
Sorry. I'm just digging what you're saying. And when you said plants, it's also been done with water. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
With water. You can change the vibration of water by speaking to it, playing music to it, writing words on glass.
I speak into my water every day, and I speak into my bath water twice a day. Cleanse, purify, and heal.
Yeah. So, Fatty told me to stay away from too much woo-woo, but we got to get into
I kind of like this. I do want to play the devil's advocate here, and just from a different perspective, if you're okay.
I will also play devil's advocate, Fatty, with you.
Okay. So are you okay to ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So from a scientific approach, the heart, the brain does all the thinking, and it's based on past conditioning. So
there's 40,000 neurites in your heart.
What we usually feel in our heart is just deeply enrooted beliefs. Yeah. But it feels like it's in our heart, it's in our soul, it's like deeply ingrained. And that's all learned behavior.
Yeah, to me, that's the amygdala. That's where you basically learn how to survive, right? Because you're basically, your amygdala and your ego is about protection, about, fear, doubt, and judgment of how am I going to survive life, right? The heart itself actually is like another brain. It's got 40,000 neurites, right? So it's actually, a device similar to the brain. We just never really acknowledge it. We've done so much research here without beginning to plug in electrodes here on what's happening there.
So Kevin, would you say that it's better to use your heart and your brain together? Because the heart will tell you what you want and what's nice, but that's not always what's good for you. I guess that was my thing. Yes, it's because I'm actually, really nice guy, but nice guys get taken advantage of. So I have to have that, what you said, the part of the brain.
Yeah. Really, in other words, there's a filter there. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So the
Yes,
question is
Kevin.
whether or not your filter is working well. And I'll give you an example of when it wouldn't be working well. Let's just say I grew up, my dad was an alcoholic, right? So by the time I was 6, I decided I would never be like my dad, right? He beat me, he beat my mom, you know. Now I'm in my 20s and I'm trying to start a business and I can't get the success rolling, right? Well, it turns out my dad was a highly successful businessman. He networked with everybody. Everybody loved him. He was friends with everyone. And in my subconscious, in my amygdala, to be a successful businessman means to be an alcoholic and a wife beater. So my subconscious brain is saying, no. When that success signal is coming from my heart with no judgment, my brain's saying success is bad, right? So working through that trauma as a child, beginning to unravel the good components of dad and the bad or the components we don't like about dad, and getting free from that being all wrapped up, because your subconscious mind sees everything like my sister. Yeah, it sees my sister in the girl I'm dating. I don't know why.
Yeah, I wouldn't tell people that, but yeah. It's illegal in certain states.
It's okay in Alabama. I'm just kidding.
Alabama, yeah.
Anybody from Alabama?
Kevin, can I chime in for a minute, guys?
Absolutely.
So one of the tools, and again, I have a lot of anxiety because this is like really awesome stuff, which has nothing to do. But anyway, I wrote about early 2000 about how the mind is an incredibly powerful tool that will suppress whatever needs to be suppressed in order to get the body through whatever it needs to survive. So if you think about Holocaust survivors, prisoners of war, I mean, these are people who have gone through exceptional, challenging experiences, but the mind did what it needed to do to get that physical body through that, because I believe that the body wants to survive no matter what. Now, there are going to be those moments in time where the heart is going to pop up and say, hey, guess what? I need you to experience this and process this emotion because I got you through it. And now that you're through it, we got to deal with it. So Troy, and this is kind of a tool that I teach my clients to try to simplify the difference between the heart and the mind. If it feels icky, it's icky. Bottom line. So I just kind of want to get some feedback from Kevin on that, because we can rationalize, like I'm reading Untethered Soul right now. And so the mind will rationalize in order to get you through something, whatever it is. And if I start to get too confused, too conflicted, I cannot hear my instincts, I try to remove all of it and I go, okay, if this feels icky, it's icky. Feedback from you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Well, Leanne, I would say that not everyone is able to recognize things like that. For example, I'm almost retarded in certain areas. You know, I'm an intelligent person, but I fall. I don't know if it's partly genetic or partly when I grow up, but not everyone is playing on the same equal field. You know, and so what icky is to someone may be somewhat normal for another until they can recognize, you know, what is considered normal, what is considered right, because there's certain normalcies that happen nowadays that I don't consider right, and I'll never consider right, you know? And so I don't think everyone's on the same playing field, and they have to get to that point to at least recognize those things in order to do what you're saying.
Yeah.
So,
you know.
Yeah, what I would say is where our emotional intelligence grows is when we can fully feel through the ick, right? We can really, without judgment, right? So this feels icky, right? Once I fully feel through the ick, then I can derive in a place of clarity and make a choice. Do I want to proceed to know more about this ick? Or do I just want to walk away from it? But I'm making it, you know, from a point of clarity. And that's, to me, where we want to, or is easiest to work through life, in a place of clarity.
Yeah, and it's not, and for me, it's not a point of exit, like, ooh, that's uncomfortable, I got to get out.
Yeah.
It is a part of my decision-making process, right? And like, you know, I've shared with you guys before, like I don't make major decisions after 3 o'clock in the afternoon because I know that I'm likely to overgive if I make a commitment after that time of day. And so it's not a, oh God, get out of here, you got to run away from it. It's just that I recognize, okay, this is not sitting well with me. Why is this not comfortable for me? Are these people that I want to interact with or not, right? Because my family, I had to literally break up with my entire family because I had to put on my emotional armor like 3 or 4 days before I would interact with them. And then it would take me 3 or 4 days to recover because the anxiety levels were so high. So for me personally, that's my, does it feel icky or not kind of thing.
Yeah, when family can put us back into that old cardboard cutout of when we were 15, you know, and that's what they expect from us. You know, I can bring it all up and out. All right, hopefully I'm going to try to shoot through these slides so we can learn a little bit more about how to work with compassion, right? So when we allow challenging emotions to be fully felt, right, we begin to allow the limiting thoughts and beliefs that are stored with them to also pass through, right? So we can support our clients in feeling through a challenge by naturally allowing them to talk about what's happening and feel through it. Then the second step of compassion. So the first step is feeling the challenging stuff for ourselves or our clients. The second step actually involves the mind because the mind can envision what's possible, right? It can envision amazing possibilities for our clients. So when we give that vision of what's possible over to the powerhouse of our hearts, right, then we create an energetic path for change, right? From where the motion of where our clients are present to the motion of what's possible, right? So these are energies that we can both allow to exist together. The painful one of where they're at, the expansive one of what's possible, right? So this is speaking in a metaphysical way of talking about energy, right? The contraction of what we're feeling to the expansion of what's possible, right? So then when we give that thought, that idea of what's possible over to the powerhouse of our hearts, that's what really gets compassion moving because the heart, the energy of the heart as measured by Heart Math Institute is 10 times greater than that of the mind. In other words, they're like, okay, we can measure the heart out or the mind out 8 inches, we can measure the heart out 8 feet, right? And then it's how animals connect with each other. It's how they connect with us, right? So remember that emotions are just energy in motion, the creative force of life, right? So thank goodness our hearts are 10 times more powerful than our minds because our minds get clouded with a lot of stuff. All right. So then once again, this first step, take the time to open up into our client's humanness. Feel the emotions of whatever they're experiencing, right? Challenges with money, schedule, companionship, COVID-19, anxiety, busyness, right? This is where when we first meet with a potential client, right, we can be asking meaningful connections to connect with them and what's going on. Or even if, you know, or something as static as our website is, are we meeting our ideal clients, right, our avatars in the pain that they're having? So when they come to our website, they're like, wow, Fatty really knows me, right? It's right there in his website. He's talking about my pain, right? And then that pain that leads us to the next question, which is step 2 of compassion, right? What's possible, right? Here's our experience. We have an experience of working with past clients. We know what that feels like. We know what their success feels like, right? So we know what it feels like for our successful clients in terms of wealth, freedom, connection, health, fun, relaxation, right? So just to back up a second in the 5 minutes I got left, what initially drew my attention to compassion was this book called Awakening to Oneness, right? And the research in that book showed that the most effective practitioners were ones that can empathetically feel into a challenge and then also have a vision of wholeness and well-being. In other words, oneness practitioners that were doctors had a better ability to feel into the pain that their clients were going through because they had so much experience with clients in pain, and they had a better experience of clients that had recovered, right? So oneness practice is an energetic practice. It's not a physical surgery or something, but doctors ended up being some of the best oneness practitioners, right? And as I dove in further, I found all these other books that I got listed here. Please don't try to copy them all down. I can send you the slides if you want. But I got excited when I really realized that compassion is the essence of why the work I do is transformative, why it helps my clients. And I begin to realize that no matter what you do, if you're a massage therapist, you're a real estate agent, a financial advisor, you're a parent, you're a coach, you're a friend, that compassion is the supportive energy in shifting someone's life. So, and unfortunately, many of us have been taught to create an emotional barrier between ourselves and others. That's sympathy, right? It keeps us energetically separate, and ironically, it's draining because it doesn't allow love and appreciation from our client to flow back to us. And this is what you'll learn at Harvard University, is to maintain an energetic separateness from your patient, right? Whereas, and then I talk to therapists, I talk to doctors and nurses, and they're drained, right? As much as their patients love and appreciate them, they've built a wall that doesn't let that back in. So compassion is, I appreciate that the dictionary keeps up to date with how we use a word in our society, but the original meaning of compassion isn't what is in the dictionary. It's not sympathetic pity. And it's not a desire to alleviate. Here's 2 aspirin, fatty, call me in the morning. I'm just going to alleviate your pain. I'm not going to help you actually overcome it and work through it. So it's not sympathetic pity. Sympathetic pity sees the other person as incapable of rising above their challenge. Imagine if we saw our clients with sympathy. You couldn't help a client if you saw them as incapable of rising up to the challenge of getting in shape, right? If you had to pull them along, you couldn't do the work, right? But so when you see them and what's possible, that's what enables them to move energetically from where they're at to what's possible. And the other, we can call it emotional bypass, you can call it spiritual bypass. It's jumping right to the solution, like, hey, I know you're an amazing human being and you can do it. You can do whatever you put your mind to. So that's what compassion isn't, those 2 things. It's a journey we take together from where our client is to what's possible for them. It involves empathy, kindness, generosity, some things we're just beginning to recognize, courage, equanimity, and acceptance, the courage to feel with another person, the equanimity of realizing that you're no better than them, you're both amazing, powerful beings, and the acceptance of where they're at with no need to have to fix them, right? Because they're their own powerful being, right? So once again, those 2 steps, feel into the challenge and aspire to what's possible. And we got 2 minutes, so we'll just do a really quick one.
Great.
Yeah.
Great job, Kevin.
Yeah. All right. I was just, I would love to do a compassion exercise, but I know we're out of time. So thank you.
How long is I'm okay with staying. I've got one more thing I want to share with you guys in preparation for next week.
Yeah, go ahead, Fatty.
How long is the exercise, Kevin?
I could do a 1 minute or a 5 minute.
You guys up for a 1 minute? Yes? Thumbs up? Dwayne? Jackie and Joshua? I'm assuming your thumbs are up. Let's do it.
All right. So just I invite you to close your eyes. And I know I brought a lot of energy in. Just allow yourself to relax. Take a deep breath in. And I invite you to imagine holding the hand of a client that you're working with. Breathe into your heart and feel into whatever challenge they may be going through. Imagine yourself breathing with them and feeling with them. And now take a deep breath in and see this person as healthy, whole, and free. See them as the powerful creation of the universe that they are. And as you breathe back out fully and completely, just know them as a powerful and infinite being of the universe. The universe itself is experiencing the magic and miracle of life through the hand you're holding. And when you're ready, open your eyes and know that we can all be compassionate practitioners in our professions and what we do.
Love that, Kevin. Thank you so much. So this was awesome. I want for us to exercise this for the next 7 days. Compassion for ourselves and compassion for others. I want to share something with you really quick so you have a visual, and I'm going to give it to you as well in the chat box. You can practice this. One of our communication specialists designed this for us. Her name is, she was part of our team, Jennifer Sheeran. I hope you can see this. Would like to start using this. I'm going to start using this for myself as a journal. I'm taking today's theme and cross-referencing it, sort of supersetting it with every day during the week. I'm wanting to be more compassionate, and I'm going to do it in these different areas. So in the spiritual, mental, physical, financial, social, and artistical. So when 14 years ago, I wrote the book, Stronger Than You Fit, and is how I strengthened different areas in my life. It's who we become in the process of achieving our life goals. So I grew up with a lot of heart, and then I've suppressed my heart because I felt kind of like what Troy was sharing earlier, is that nice guy gets kind of stomped on, and you need to be a hard ass, a badass. And emotions are signs of weakness. So how do we, this is why I do the 7 elements, is so I'm in tune and I don't lose myself, and I'm able to relate to as many people as possible. Kevin, I really appreciate the way you shared your process of how you handle things. And I'm definitely going to practice compassion from some of the tricks that you've given us today. And I encourage all of you to do this in the next 7 days, and come visit us next week. We have a new guest. Our next topic is artistical, in the place of creativity, storytelling, and inspiration. So we can take those emotions and now make something of it, create something that's creative for others to be inspired and impactful in a positive way. I hope it's been a blessing to be with you all. I love you. Thank you so much for showing up, and I really hope to see you next week, and bring a friend. Okay, guys, have an amazing week.
One thing before you go, I love doing interviews with people and getting to know them better. I just put a link up there. It'll take you right. It'll schedule it put you an hour on my calendar.
Perfect.
Yep. So yeah, please. It's good. It's fun for me. It'll be fun for you, and we'll both learn something new.
Perfect, Kevin. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm going to be here for another minute or two if anybody wants to chat.
Later.